Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On tonight's show, we are finally getting into breaking down some of the 2023 draft prospects. We're going to hit you with some quarterbacks. We're going to hit you with some wide receivers and the big boys that block for them. But first, Mr. Reynolds, how are you?
I'm feeling quite jovial now after the lead-in to the show. Do you want to tell them, or do you want me to?
Oh, no, it's all good, man. It's all good. We have some good talks pre-show and post-show. It's a good thing they're not recorded.
Yeah, it is, because I'll just tell everyone I said to you after you said it. I don't even know you anymore. And then we just cracked up laughing for about 2 minutes.
It's fine. It's fine. Besides that, sir, life treating you well?
Yeah, I'm still sick at the fact that we can't get a springtime here, but we're opening up the club next Saturday. And I looked at the extended forecast, and it's calling for mixed precipitation next Saturday morning. A little bit of snow, a little bit of ice, a little bit of rain. What a surprise. It's only April after all. But other than that, hey, doing great. Doing great.
Awesome. Me too. And I'll tell you why. So we do a lot of jibber jabbering on here and talking about stuff and, posting stuff on social media. And there were two gentlemen. I give first names. One's name's Al, one's name's Reggie. And they have been really on Lamar Jackson's side of the Lamar Jackson saga. And I was going back and forth with them on social media, which can be very, very dangerous. But it did not go that route because those two guys, they know what they're talking about. They're mature. And we went back and forth. I gave, my points on how I feel and why. They gave theirs. We didn't disagree. And we walked away from it smiling and laughing and respectfully. And that is exactly how those interactions should go. Unfortunately, most of the time, doing things that we do and, talking sports like this, it doesn't end that way. They're, name calling and just terrible, terrible things. And people say, stuff they shouldn't say. This didn't happen. It was just three adults going back and forth, giving their sides. And you know what? Hey, guess what? I will never agree with you. You'll never agree with me. And it's all good. High fives, and we walked away. That was something I appreciated because far too often it doesn't work out that way.
That is correct. And of course, myself, I can never walk out of an LJax conversation giggling, laughing, and happy because he's a freaking idiot. I can be civil, though. Yes, civility is good. But what a freaking idiot.
I know. It's not going to go well for him. And
it isn't going well, and it's going to continue. And we talked this week. We probably talked 20 minutes tonight just about him. We just kept rambling that every time he tweets something, every time he opens his mouth, he just sounds stupider and digs a deeper hole, makes himself look like more of a fool. More people abandon him. It's getting to the point that maybe it's more than 50-50 that he's not even going to play this year because some moron will convince him that that's the right way to do it. So then you're going to somehow be in the same position next year, getting franchised again. And now you're a year out of your athletic skill set. What are you going to do by not playing for you that's going to convince another team? Oh yeah, okay, well, let's give up the 2 firsts and pay him $50 million guaranteed a year. Did you see his latest demand today that came out? What came out yesterday? It's not that he wants his whole contract guaranteed. He just wants more guaranteed than Deshaun Watson. Well, what's that? $250 million? So what you're basically saying now is you want a $400 million contract, but it doesn't have to be that high. It's almost 250 of it's guaranteed so that you can sit out.
It's honestly, it's insane. I cannot imagine. anyone giving him that much guaranteed money. It's absolutely absurd.
Even if he wasn't getting hurt. And I don't even care if you call his injuries fluke. The fact is he's hurt. He misses a lot of games. He's not tough. Pat Mahomes will go out and play all day long, have a 40-yard run on an ankle that's so wrapped up, it looks like he's wearing a cast.
I just watched it in the Super Bowl. Just watched it.
Right. So, but you can't even let not play. You don't even travel with your team to do it. It's just crazy. He can't throw. So on top of it, you got this team he wants to go to that you wanted to give him $300 million, $250 guaranteed, lose the two number ones. And then on top of it, you have to change your whole offense to an RPO style for a guy who can't really throw as well as I hoped he'd be able to by now. So you have to change the whole thing.
You're a Ravens fan and have been a Lamar Jackson fan until now. But I feel like you and us are the only people that really talk about the fact that he didn't show up to a game when he could have. Everyone, oh, well, he gets hurt and, his playing style's dangerous and this and that. The dude didn't show up to a game. I think that speaks volumes as to who he is, not just as a player, as a human being.
Yep.
And listen, I've talked about this 1,000 times, and I'm going to talk about it more every time we go through draft prospects. Like, your mental makeup and who you are as a person is the number one thing that matters. We talked about it right before we got on. We got on the Jalen Hurts train for some reason. I don't even know how we got there. But the number one thing is your mental makeup and who you are as a human. And if you don't show up to a game, that speaks volumes as to who you are. And dude, man, Lamar Jackson, you ain't it, bro. You're not getting that check that you want.
He came out after Arthur Blank said, we don't want to bring in a guy with this guaranteed money who keeps getting hurt. That goes into factoring things. Of course it does. So then, of course, LJax comes out the next morning proclaiming, who you talking about being hurt and all this junk. Okay, or I didn't want to go put my team in a bad position without 100% PCL. Well, you don't really need 100% PCL to be there for your team. And you certainly don't need it to stand on the sideline and cheer on your teammates. You just don't.
Right.
You don't need it. You could be sitting there. Okay, if it's that bad, sit in a wheelchair. Have a couple guys carry you out, put you in your throne that you think you belong in.
I've seen guys do that. And you know who those guys are? They're like the special teams guys.
Yeah.
They're the guys on the bench that tore their ACL in practice. You know what I mean? But they're still out there with their boys.
You see guy after guy on the sideline. I mean, there's more guys on the sideline than there are players. And they're players. They're big, bulky, muscular-looking dudes, just in like the team shorts, team polo. They're all on the team. They're supporting their team because they want to be. They're nobodies as far as the NFL goes.
Sure.
I can't get behind anything he does. Like I said, every time he tweets something or says something, he digs a deeper hole. It's obviously nobody's giving him anything. Even after the draft, I don't see anybody all of a sudden throwing out all these picks and all this money to him so that they can change their offense for a guy who plays 11 games a season.
On a previous show, I had said that what the Colts should do is at 4, they should draft whoever they want. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, whoever they want. And then immediately give Lamar Jackson a contract offer so that they don't lose their 4th overall pick this year, but it'll be 2 first-round picks in the future. I'm off of that. I don't think they should do that at all. I don't think Lamar Jackson should be on their team. Can I tell you what I think they should do?
I think we've discussed this before already, haven't we? Yes.
Off air, right? I think they should give, as soon as they make their 4th overall pick, they or trade back. Be fine
That's
with
what
me.
They should do if they're going to do the thing we're talking about.
Or we get Shane Steichen, their new head coach, on the horn, call Kyle Shanahan, say, look, I got pick 36. I'll give that to you. You send me Trey Lance.
Yep.
You already got Brock Purdy, who you want to be the starting quarterback. Even if he's not ready, you got Sam Darnold, who's going to be the number 2 quarterback anyway. regardless of the Trey Lance situation, if Brock Purdy comes back, Lance is going to 3. He's not going to be the backup because it's going to be a different offense if he's
Yep.
running it. Purdy runs an offense, the offense that works best for your team, the Jimmy Garoppolo offense, right? Sam Darnold is more equipped to run that same offense. Trey Lance is your third string guy. So listen, I know you spent the third overall pick for him 2 years ago, whatever it was. I guarantee you, I don't want to guarantee. I almost guarantee you, if the Colts said, I'll give you pick 36 for it, they would do it. And then guess what? Shane Steichen's got his new Jalen Hurts. Hey, Trey Lance is not Jalen Hurts.
You got
but,
that right.
But hey, we can try, right? We can try.
Yep.
And it's worth it. You got Gardner Minshew there, which we mentioned last episode, that Gardner Minshew can run that offense. He just ran it for Shane in Philly. So you got Gardner Minshew can run it for a whole year if you need it. Maybe you just need it for 6 games. Maybe Lance picks it up. I don't know. But you have no need for Lance in San Francisco. And it's a perfect fit for Shane Steichen and what he did with Jalen Hurts.
So you may remember about a month ago, when we were talking off air, I said that Lance needs to go. Why not get something for him now before he actually plays and proves that he's not as good as some people want to believe? He still has draft value, even though he's been hurt. He has value. You could get something back for him. Why not? Another thing we talked about, the Niners don't need him. We were joking the other day how in the Philly the conference championship game they had 0 quarterbacks. Next thing you know, they have 4. Got rid of Garoppolo. He's going now, and now we'll get rid of Lance. You don't need him because he's not going to run the same offense, whereas Darnold can. There's no way they're going to keep all 3 of them. So why not get rid of him now so you can get something in the draft? Because right now he still has a little bit of buzz. If he sits on your bench as your number 3 guy all year and never takes a snap, you'll be lucky to get a 5th rounder for him next year.
Dude, that's 36. Right. Yes.
Yeah, just get rid of him now while he still has some buzz. He didn't play bad the few games he got to play. He just wasn't sensational. But man, yeah, I can't imagine that they're not going to do something because they like to make trades like they're drinking water, breathing air. So it seems crazy to me that they're going to keep all 3 of them or dump one of them for nothing.
I'm with you. If you're going to go out and trade the farm, they lost so many draft picks getting Christian McCaffrey and all that stuff making this run. You have no need for Trey Lance. None. 0. Get something. You get yourself a 2nd round pick. Listen, the Niners draft well. If nothing else, they draft well.
And it's funny.
You can do something.
And so we talked about the other day. They right now are one of, I think, 2 teams who don't have a single pick in the top 100 picks. They have the most picks in the draft, but none in the top 100. So why not do this? All of a sudden, we've got a pick maybe in the 30s, maybe low 40s. Could do something beneficial to the team instead of a guy holding the clipboard of the guy holding the clipboard.
And you got a couple options here. One of them is you get a guy that may be a 1st round guy that slips a little bit, and you get him in the 2nd round. Or guess what? What if you trade back a bit? What if you trade back 15 picks and pick up another 3rd or another 4th round pick? Now we're doing something, right? Now we're collecting. Not that they necessarily need it. Their roster's ready to go right now.
You better believe it, man. The rich getting richer. Or we take that number 36, say, pick and take 2 of these compensatory picks we've had, bunch them together to move up to number 18. And now we can pick an impact player to go along with all the rest of these people we're going to get.
Lots of
because
options,
we talked the other day, it's either 3 or 4 years ago. Up until then, you couldn't trade compensatory picks. If you got one in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, you had to take it. You're obligated to take it there. Could not trade it, couldn't make it part of a package, anything. You had to pick it. But now you can move them. You can package them the same as any other pick and move up in there. That's it, because some of these teams just are looking for depth. Why not package some of that together and move up higher in the draft along with Lance? Man, why not? Why not get into the top 20?
Because it makes too much sense.
Well said. But yeah, the Niners, though, tend to make deals, I think, that make more sense than other teams. They might be a little crazy and convoluted at times, but they seem to always be trying to bring in somebody that's going to make an impact as opposed to just trading for the sake of trading. which a
I'll
lot
buy
of
that.
teams seem to do.
I will definitely
Shanahan
buy
against always has. There's always wheels turning.
that.
Always.
It sounds crazy, but there's a reason. There's a reason there.
There's his reasons sometimes don't seem to make sense, but they're at least a reason. Everything
Sure.
he does is calculated. It's not just let's just do this.
Yes, sir. You ready to get these draft pick these prospects broken down?
Yeah, let's get after it, homeboy.
All right. So before we do, I want to the class, the 2023 draft class as a whole. It's bothersome. There's no Aiden Hutchinson. There's no Sauce Gardner. There's no Ike Ekwonu. There's no Evan Neal, Charles Cross. There's no Jamar Chase. This one was tough for me because there are very few top of the line, absolute can't miss players.
There's
And
only one.
I kept watching the
The
film
fool.
on all these guys over and over again. And I was waiting to be blown away. And I wasn't. And I got to a point, and I brought this up to you, I think probably more than once. I didn't know how many guys that I should even look at film. Should I look at 40 guys because there's only that many guys worth going in the first round? Not even that many, actually. Or should I look at 90 guys because who the hell knows who's going to go in the first round because of how thin the talent is? Do you feel the same way?
I felt like really Carter's the only guy I think that could have been this right from the start, this big difference
Yes.
maker in the league. But he's going to be lucky to go in the top 10 now.
I know.
Other than that, no, I've been telling it for the last like 2 months how boring this whole group is. Like last year going to the draft, man, I was pumped. It was just chock full of talent at so many positions, knowing that there might be like 9 receivers go in the first round. It was in the quarterback, everything was just you just didn't know what was going on. And the draft itself ended up crazy, like things happening we weren't expecting. This is
So many
just like
traits, right?
anything that happens. There's, like I said, there's only really one thing that I want to see happen. Other than that, it's just like, okay, he got picked. He got picked. I know it's sort of a crappy way to look at it, but maybe that's the problem. We're looking at it, comparing it to last year, where it was just this endless NFL ready players. And maybe we're being too hard on these guys because last year's class was just sick.
Well, I think COVID screwed everything up because I think this is going to be the last year where people were like screwed up with COVID. Next year is going to be back to normal, I think, and we're going to see better talent coming out. It's just people weren't all screwed up and all that weird business that happened. So for the QBs, for me, there's 2 guys that have a floor, and there are 2 guys that have a ceiling. The problem is the guys with the ceiling have zero floor. Literally, they could end up being no one, like me and you, as far as the NFL goes.
Speak for yourself.
Uh, for me, I got CJ Stroud as my number 1 quarterback. Okay. Ohio State, 6'3, 214 pounds. For me, it's not even close to Bryce Young, who's my number 2. If I am taking a quarterback at 1, which the Carolina Panthers are, and it's very interesting because you disagree with this, and I love it, but he has, of the guys coming out this year, all of the tools that you want an NFL quarterback to have. He has the size, he has accuracy, anticipation, and I think that's going to help him thrive. He's big, he's strong. He's not huge, but he's big enough.
He's big.
He's got what's that?
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah, he's got nice
He's not
mobility.
Big Ben. He's not that type size, but he's a big
Right.
dude.
Right. 6'3, 215-ish. We're good. He's got nice mobility in the pocket. He's always looking downfield. His delivery and his release is interesting because you hear people say like, he's throwing darts out there. This dude he literally looks like he's throwing darts when he's throwing a football. It's kind of something I haven't really seen with anybody else. The biggest game of his life was against Georgia in the college football playoffs, and he played probably the best game he's ever played in his career. So he can do it on the big stage. People were always like, oh, I don't know if he's mobile enough. I don't know what he showed it in that game. Jalen Carter's running in his face. Nolan Smith's, coming off the edge. He's able to dodge those guys, move around, and make it happen. He can get to his second read, which quarterbacks of the past could not do, like Justin Fields from Ohio State could not make that happen. He can do that. A big thing for me is he doesn't hesitate to throw it to a guy who's open underneath. He drops back, he's looking deep, not open. His outlet goes across his face underneath. Boom, he will hit, a guy we're going to talk about earlier that's coming across the middle. Too many quarterbacks like Will Levis aren't too willing to do that, to take that guaranteed chain moving completion. He's got nice touch on the ball. I love this guy, man. He had the best throwing session, and I know you hate the combine, but he had the best throwing session at the combine that I personally have ever seen, and he had almost 70% completion percentage in his senior year.
Okay, so yeah, he's the guy I would say is the most, as far as overall skill set knowledge, is the guy most NFL ready right now. I'll completely give you that. How good he's going to be, I don't know. It's interesting. One thing you brought up is before the show, for you to believe in something, you need to see it more than once. The dude essentially in college was a statue. It was like Big Ben in his late years. For one game, and boy, it was a beaut. He took off constantly, and it was awesome. And he didn't hesitate, and he had some long runs, and he was running strong. But he did it once. I like one of the numbers I saw here. Last year, he had a quarterback rating of only 76 when under any pressure at all. He really struggles. So you put him, you can say this to any player, but you put him in the right offense that somebody has a great O-line. And I'll be honest, I didn't look up how PFF graded Carolina's O-line last year. If you want to do that real quick. But if this guy's running for his life, that team's going to be in trouble. I really don't see him being all of a sudden changing and becoming every game like that Georgia game.
He had 30 less career rushing yards than Bryce Young. And people they're all on Bryce Young. Oh, he's mobile. He can move around. He had 30 less rushing yards in his career.
But I don't love Bryce Young either.
You want to go into him right now?
My problem with him is I don't know how to say. He just doesn't ever seem, and I know he did sometimes, but he doesn't seem to super shine when it matters the most. It's Alabama. You're loaded with talent, but he runs into a couple decent teams. Next thing you know, he loses. He's only 5'11". Again, I don't think he's going to be horrible. I don't think anybody that drafts either one of these guys is just getting some bum who's going to be out of the league in 4 years. I don't think that. But I don't think either one of them was anywhere near worth what they traded to get to number one. Just not even close. But
I absolutely agree.
It's just not there. But I think they'll both be solid guys. I just don't see either one of them really being this guy that's leading a team to the Super Bowl. I don't see that happening. I could see either one of them being a backup in 3 years. I mean, where are they going to go? And what's around them? It'll be interesting how these things go. These draft picks of if somebody does what I hope they do, and then see where these guys drop down to a little bit and the teams that they end up with, because they could end up on a team where they're expected to start day one. I mean, I don't know that that's going to be a great idea. We've seen it so many times. It's just not.
These two, Stroud and Young, are going to go to a team that expects them to start day one.
Yep.
And for Young, the biggest issue with him coming out was that, they were listing him anywhere from 185 to 205 pounds. And he ended up going to the combine and he weighed 204.
Yep.
Listen, dude. If I personally need to gain 10 pounds in a couple days, I can do it. You give me a couple Golden Corral gift cards, buddy. I can put on some fake weight, right? Yeah. And I worry that that's what happened, because guess what? He didn't go out and throw in the combine. And I talked about this before. And I listened to a buddy of mine, Matt Miller, he's a analyst for ESPN, a draft analyst, and he was at the combine where Bryce Young did not participate. And he said he just happened to look up and see Bryce Young walking next to Anthony Richardson. And he said, I think his quote, and I'm doing my best here, was it looked like a dad walking his son to like a baseball game.
Yeah, it's like Dr. Evil in his mini me.
Yes.
$1 billion.
Now, don't get me wrong. Bryce Young can play some football. He's a great playmaker. He got the Heisman Trophy in 2021. He's got vision. He's got anticipation. He's active in the pocket. He's elusive. He is the quote Patrick Mahomes of the bunch. He can ad lib, whereas CJ Stroud's your pocket passer. He's the Tom Brady. He's not ad libbing a whole lot, right? No. He's going to make it happen from where he is. There are glimpses of incredible accuracy with Bryce Young, but this, for me, he misses a little too often. And I got more on that here in a little bit. I actually posted on the Facebook page right before we got on here.
Oh yes.
I noticed he could be a little lazy in his drop back at times. I don't know how important that is, but his footwork it varied on his drop backs.
It's the same reason as it's important in tennis. And I tell my kid, just a quick correlation there.
Right. Please, yes.
Because he played for Alabama, and granted, you're still playing the SEC, but you still get a lot of cupcakes, especially their non-conference games. It breeds laziness because you can. So the problem is when you play Georgia, you can't just flip a freaking switch and all of a sudden be light on your feet and ready to go. It just doesn't work that way.
Did you notice that too?
Yes.
Okay. I have not heard, I'm so glad you said this. I have not heard a single human being say anything about that. And the fact that I saw it and you saw it, and folks, listen, you can only take our word for this. I swear we have not talked about this previously, but no, you notice the laziness in his drop back at times.
Because he can.
Awesome.
Not because he's lazy, but because he can. When you're crushing people 63-3, it breeds laziness. So my tennis players who are beasts, they play these kids around here who are awful. They crush them. The problem is then they go to regionals and they play stiff competition. I can't flip a switch and all of a sudden have you split stepping, have you moving with purpose to the ball. Next thing you know, you lose to somebody you shouldn't have because you played them as though they were a nobody.
Okay, great. Another thing for him, they were a ton of screens and short passes in the offense. Bryce Young's yards per attempt were almost a full yard behind CJ Stroud. And I wish I could find air yards per target for CJ Stroud because it had to have been so much lower than every other quarterback that we're going to talk about.
So to build on what you're saying, the biggest knock a lot of people have is that he's 5'10".
What? No. Not 5'10", to like 190. It's usually the weight more than the height.
I know, but I'm just saying, as far as the height, this has been a knock that he walks 5'10". What is the one, potentially, pretty much the one and only pass where your height doesn't necessarily matter?
Boy, those screen passes are pretty good.
Nobody over there to throw or look over.
It's true.
It's the absolute truth. When you look at the route tree of a lot of things he throws, it's all these short things where it doesn't matter that he doesn't have to see over the 6-7 guys in front of him.
So what are all these guys on the NFL Network and ESPN? What are they seeing?
He plays for Alabama.
I don't care. I care sometimes. I care sometimes, but not this time.
But they do. They don't care. The Alabama's considered the NFL of the NCAA, even though they didn't win the title. They didn't even make the final. They didn't even make the playoff. I don't know, dude. That goes a long ways. Alabama, it goes a long ways.
Will Levis, not my guy. He's a monster.
You're not fond of him.
He's 6'4", he's 230, and he's jacked. You sent me a text during you watched 3 minutes of the combine, and you sent me a text, and you were like, dude, Will Levis hasn't missed a weight room session
yet. He looks like a freaking bodybuilder.
No kidding. Dude, super strong arm. He's got really high highs. He's got really low lows. He got 23 picks in 2 seasons. He's as probably the most arm talent of anyone in this draft. He can thread the needle at times. The problem is it's just not very often. I did see him look some defensive backs off on occasion. He's got good play fakes, which is kind of like a weird thing to talk about. But Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that sticks out in my mind. There's great play fakes. You know, you do some play action, you know, make teams buy it.
He
Can do
doesn't
that.
just make teams buy it; he makes the cameraman buy it.
Right.
You're following some dude in the end zone.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Rodgers back there at the ball resting on his butt cheek.
Right. Yeah. The problem with and Levis has a few, but he makes poor decisions way too often. He throws off his back foot a lot. Again, Aaron Rodgers, he does that, but guess what? Will Levis isn't Aaron Rodgers. Levis is going to need some serious coaching, and he's going to need some weapons. People talk, well, you know, he needs some coaching, and then all of a sudden he loses Wan'Dale Robinson, his number one receiver last year. Well, he lost his biggest weapon. Oh, right. He's going to go to a team probably that might not have a weapon, that might not have this great coaching that you're looking for. So don't draft him high in the draft because if you know you need those things for him to be successful, what are we talking about? Why are we mocking him to teams that don't have a great coach, that don't have weapons for him to throw to? It's blowing my mind. He has zero pocket awareness. This dude got crushed constantly in his collegiate career.
Yeah, but
he's not accurate short. He's not accurate downfield. I loved watching the combine for him. And I know you don't like the combine, but when he's throwing to his left, dude, he did not open his hips at all. He is so tight trying to throw across his body. This guy is such a project. All of that being said, and this is what people miss, because Bryce Young is so great, and this is my point, and he's so accurate, and we love Bryce Young. Bryce Young's career completion percentage was 66%. Will Levis, 65%.
And they play all the same teams.
All the same teams.
Yet Bryce Young is surrounded by an NFL team, and the guy that would be going number one in this draft. Oh no, he plays at Ohio State. Sorry, I got too many teams going through my head right now. Marvin Harrison Jr. He'd be going number one in this draft if he was coming out.
Maybe.
But nonetheless, Kentucky, no line, no anything. And you see that. So that's why I don't understand why you're so down, just because you watched him throw at the combine. What he is, I'll tell you what he is. He's a victim of his own cannon. He's gotten lazy with footwork, lazy with everything the way he throws because he can. But in the NFL, we can't because you got Sauce on the other side just ready for that crap. You throw that crap to him, bye-bye.
Mine.
You need the extra 4 miles an hour you get from that hip rotation. So you're right. So let's send him to Indy. Couple decent receivers. Let's let him play behind the stash for a year. Let him learn. Let him chuck the ball 70 yards down the field. Send him somewhere that like he has at least a Pittman to throw to, somebody along his lines, and he can sit for a year. Stash can run the offense for a year. You said it yourself.
I did. I know. But listen, I want nothing to do with these guys that need a ton of coaching and need help. They are not successful.
Well, that may be, but we got to be realists here. He's going in the top 7 players. So you need to pick a team that you think he might go, that might actually get him, and that he could eventually be useful. People said all the same things about Josh Allen when he came out. Now, every one of them wishes they could go back to that draft and take him.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And all of those, most of those teams, probably all of those teams would have been wrong. And I'll tell you why after you bring up our next quarterback, sir.
You're a freaking mess. So
bring up our next quarterback.
If I'm trading everything Carolina did, and they brought in a couple pieces, all of them past their prime now, but some pieces now, since over the last couple weeks, if you're trading the farm, basically your whole future, do I just want to take a guy who's going to be a decent NFL quarterback, maybe carrying the clipboard? Or do I want to go huge risk, huge reward? I'm going huge risk, huge reward in this. There is no Trevor Lawrence. There is no brainer. So I want the guy that could be the future of my team. And I'm taking Anthony Richardson every time,
Oh
number one.
my gosh. That is absolutely insane.
Every single time.
Why?
Every time. Numbers off the charts, 6'4", 244, still runs a 4'4"
So
and
big.
3.
He's so big, dude.
He is enormous, and I've said
He's
on the
so
show before,
big.
my only worry is his body too heavy, too big for his speed.
We've seen it a
That's
lot,
my
my
only
friend.
worry. That's my only worry. But dude, you he has some limited experience. He has this, that, but I watched him throw. He throws a nice ball. He looks good. He could be a freaking monster. He could be the best dual threat quarterback in the league. Better than Hurts, better than LJax, who even plays anymore, better than Josh Allen. I'm not saying he will be. I agree also he could completely crash and burn. But I don't think that. People thought the same about Cam. People thought the same about all these guys that come out that, oh, that's not made for the NFL. He needs too much work. Well, guess what? Maybe it won't take much work, and maybe he'll go over there and dominate. He has the highest ceiling of anybody in this draft. And if I'm trading away my whole future and half my best player, I'm going after the reward along with the risk, as opposed to some guy that might be decent.
After this draft, I am going to force you to either get off of your mountaintop or get rid of your safety net. I'm going to let you see where he gets drafted, because you can't come on here and say he could be the greatest quarterback of all time,
I never said that.
or he could crash and burn.
But I didn't say that.
Okay. You said he could be better than Cam Newton,
I said he could be the best dual threat quarterback in the league potentially. Yes, I'm going risk
than Jalen
reward.
Hurts.
If I'm trading away my whole future and my best player, I want risk reward.
After the draft, I'm going to make you choose whether he is going to be the best dual quarterback in the league or crash and burn.
Okay, fair enough, because it's going to depend partially where he goes.
Now, on your behalf, he is a highlight reel waiting to happen. This guy, I mean, he's a running back. I think he's Michael Vick and Jalen Hurts put together, because Hurts is a little more bulky.
He's Michael Vick and Mike Allstott put together.
Okay. So you know what? I'll take it. Yes, I'll take it.
He's enormous.
This guy's almost 250 pounds and ran a 4.43.
And he's not a big 250. He's not like a Big Ben, like he was just a sort of a doughy. He's a freaking
ripped up.
Yeah, he's a frightening looking individual.
And if you watch him throw, he's got decent pocket awareness. Give you that. His footwork isn't terrible. He's got a base, something to work with. He is a pass first, run second, which I was very surprised of. I was watching his film, and even though he's so capable at running the ball, he's looking downfield. That's what he's doing. He's trying to throw, and I did not expect to see that. I did. That impressed me a bit. Very raw as a thrower. He only started 1 year. He missed guys by a mile. He missed guys at the combine by a mile. He missed guys in his pro day. People are doing these comps. Oh, my comp is Cam Newton. My comp is Michael Vick. But his comp should be Malik Willis. Granted, he's bigger than Malik Willis for sure. But Malik Willis went in the third round. Who had more passing yards? Malik Willis. More yards per attempt? Malik Willis. Malik Willis had 10 more passing touchdowns, more rushing yards, and he had more rushing touchdowns.
But Malik Willis played for Liberty.
Yes.
Anthony Richardson plays in the SEC.
Yes. I am so glad, because in quotes, I say, well, Richardson played in the SEC. I have it in quotes in my notes.
It's the truth. You can't just not factor 100%. That in.
But he played poorly. He barely completed 50% of his passes.
It's not pretty on that aspect. I agree.
No, he barely completed half of his passes. I know he dominated the combine, whatever. I have seen CJ Stroud and Bryce Young do well against good defenses. I haven't seen Richardson do it. Everyone's going to tell you, oh, look at the Utah tape for Anthony Richardson. Utah was their first game. He had all summer to prepare for Utah. You know what defense they're going to run all summer. After that, downhill. Here's my thing. Him and Levis, they need way too much coaching to go in the top 10 picks. Think about our successful quarterbacks in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, he need a lot of coaching? Nope. Andrew Luck? Nope. Either of the Mannings, honestly, even Eli Manning. No, they don't need that much coaching. Josh Allen, he needs some coaching. Great. He got Brian Dable, who just ended up as the
Tom Brady,
NFL.
Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy.
They didn't need Purdy. Hold on, Purdy, I'll give you. But I think Purdy ended up in the perfect situation, which both of us will agree the situation you go to is probably the most important thing, right?
100%.
Hurts, I don't think needed that much coaching. He came from his dad is a coach. He dominated college football for multiple years, right? He didn't need that much coaching. He just needed the opportunity, and he's got the mental makeup. I'm not sure Richardson. I don't know Richardson. They said he did great interviews. I don't know. Josh Allen had an amazing coach, and they got him Stephon Diggs. I don't know what kind of targets or I'm sorry, what kind of who's Richardson going to throw to? He doesn't have DJ Moore anymore if he goes to Carolina.
DJ Chark, Adam Thielen. Who's the other one they got? No, I'm not saying that. I said at the beginning of this, they brought in some talent that's past their prime, but at least he has somebody to throw to besides Terrence Marshall.
The one guy, and this is my last point, the one guy who's been drafted recently, who's a phenomenal quarterback in the NFL that actually needed coaching was Patrick Mahomes. But guess what? He got Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Literally one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time. Anthony Richardson is not going to get that.
I think the best thing to happen to Pat Mahomes, though, wasn't even Andy Reid. It was Alex Smith. That's what made him. He learned how to be a professional. Maybe. He learned what you have to do to become great. Not good, but you have to become great.
Maybe.
So you're right. This is so much predicated on where he goes. Is he going to get to sit a year? Or is it going to be like Josh Allen where they pretend he's going to sit? He ends up playing anyway. And by year 2, he's almost benched. Now he's the guy that almost anybody in the league wants, except they take him. He's third, maybe fourth in the league now? Not fantasy, just your 4 guys are what? Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, and Allen. And then you probably put Justin Herbert number 5, you think? They're probably the top 5 guys, right? So I agree. That's why I'm saying risk reward. If this trade hadn't been made for 1, I wouldn't have him at 1. I have him at 1 because you risked everything. Why stop now? You risked the whole future of your franchise. Why stop now? Bring in a guy that by himself could completely turn your franchise around. Make people want to play there. You play in a horrible division, so he has a little wiggle room. Not a lot. It's still the NFL. We know in the NFL, anybody can beat anybody any day. So if the trade hadn't been made, I would probably have Bryce Young first, even though he's a midget. Sorry, small person, little person, short person.
You're the worst.
But because of the trade, I'm going Richardson all day long. If he crashes and burns, so be it. That's what you get for trading away the farm to move up to get number 1 in a draft that doesn't have a true number 1, who you said it yourself.
Yes, agreed. Okay. Do you have any quarterbacks outside of those 4 that you like? Maybe some late round guys or something?
Well, there's a guy we talked about beforehand here, Mr. Hendon Hooker, that I think could be the best of all these guys. Every quarterback in this draft, I think, could be eventually the best. But we also talked as again, an SEC guy, but as a rookie quarterback, you're already behind the 8 ball going to the NFL. A rookie who barely actually played a lot last year, but tore his ACL and might not even be ready completely at the start of training camp. You're even farther behind. So you draft him, you pretty much are redshirting him.
Yeah.
You almost have to.
But see, that's great because he can get right, but he can get redshirted to a team that might be ready to win now if they had a quarterback. So let's say, what if the Buccaneers get him in the 2nd round or even the 3rd round? I mean, that's a great fit. They don't have a guy ready. Baker Mayfield, sure, you can take it for now, but when Hendon Hooker's ready, imagine those weapons he's got there in Tampa Bay. Or when his injury is going to force him to go in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Oh, that sucks for him. but it might be great for him because it gives every team in the league an opportunity to draft him. You know what I'm saying? Like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are probably going to get drafted higher than they should because teams need a quarterback and they're going to take them when they shouldn't.
Because you have to. It's a quarterback-driven league now, and you have to take that chance.
I got a guy for you, Jake Haener from Fresno State. It's not going to, blow you away with his physicals. 6 foot, 207. He's very smooth, very fluid footwork. He might have some of the best feet I've seen in the whole class. And I'm watching him and I'm like, man, I really like this guy. I watch his film. I watch him at the combine. And then I listen to Daniel Jeremiah, who is one of my favorite guys to listen to on NFL Network or his podcast, Move the Sticks. And he called him, Jeremiah said, this is my Brock Purdy for this year. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll take that. Now, Haener's going to go before the 7th round. He's better than that. But he could be a guy that steps in and, picks up an offense very quickly and can lead a team. I like Jake Haener a lot. So if you're out there listening and you want a QB that not everybody's talking about, check out Jake Haener.
Yeah, he's definitely not. I watched his film. He looks like a good guy that's going to be, from his film and then things I read about him, he looks like he's going to be a really solid backup for a lot of years. But those are the same guys that they get a chance sometimes.
Brock Purdy
just clicks, and they end up being a good quality starter. Is he a guy that either one of us probably thinks is ever going to be a top 10 quarterback? I know I don't think that. I don't know if you. No. I don't know if you'd go that far.
Not a chance.
Guy that could go. I'll tell you what. Just quickly back to Hooker. You know where I was actually thinking this thing where I would love to see him go? Denver. Let him sit there for 2 years till they're finally fed up with Russ. Let his huge contract go away and learn under Sean Payton and keep those receivers. And Javonte Williams, hopefully he comes back strong and by midseason. And in 2 years, this guy could be a player.
The problem is they went out.
Who better to learn under than Sean Payton and Russ and
yes,
weapons.
but that's sort of like a clash here because Sean Payton has been a Drew Brees guy. Russell Wilson is not a Drew Brees type quarterback. However, they went out and they got Jarrett Stidham to be the backup. That is a Drew Brees type quarterback. Hendon Hooker is more Russell Wilson than he is Drew Brees.
Yeah, but
that's the only thing
maybe he could change a little with Sean Payton. I'm just telling you, from a weapon standpoint, knowing for a fact you're going to sit for at least 2 years. Yeah, I just thought that would be a good fit. But Tanner McKee is another guy. If he can get a good offensive line, he could be a good guy right off the bat. He's very NFL ready. He looks great, needs weapons. Stanford was awful. He basically ran for his life all season. But he's a guy that I think if he'd have been playing for a much better college team, we'd be talking about him going in the first round. But he's not going to. He's going to slip to the second or third, probably late second, early third. Somebody will take a chance on him. But again, a guy who's just a great clipboard carrier, but under the right tutelage and the right weapons, could be a guy.
All right, so let's move on to the wide receivers. Oh, sorry.
We can't just pretend Stetson Bennett doesn't exist.
Okay. I don't know where Stetson Bennett's going to go. I don't actually care. I don't think he's going to start anywhere.
He's going to go.
And if he does, it'll be by accident. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Somebody has to take him because he's just won too much.
Someone will definitely take him.
And it's going to end up being a team
all the Georgia fans come.
That for some reason, he's going to end up starting some games next year.
I hope Atlanta drafts him in late.
Why not? Why not? It's better than anything they have now.
That's right. If nothing else, he'll bring fans to the stands. They have Georgia Stetson Bennett jerseys.
He's every bit as good as anything they have now. And once again, I know you don't believe me, but I was looking at some depth charts on a couple different sites today, and 2 of them still have Heineke as number 1.
Silly. That's silly. All right. So for me, the wide receivers in this class, I think it just depends on what you want. If you want size, you got to go Quentin Johnson. If you want experience, you got to go Jordan Addison. If you want speed, you got to go Jalen Hyatt. It just depends on what you want. For me, my number 1 receiver in this draft, I want Jackson Smith-Njigba. You knew I talked earlier. These are the smallest receivers, maybe of all time, coming out.
It's
Quentin
bizarre.
Johnson's
It's bizarre how little they are.
I know. He's the only guy over 6'1". And besides 6'1", I'm not sure there's too many guys over 6 foot at all. But JSN, as we'll call him for short, he missed a lot of this past year with a hamstring injury. I think what he played 2 or 3 games. Wasn't a lot. But as a sophomore, he caught 95 passes for almost 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns. That was with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave on the same team. Yep. He was the number one guy. He is a great route runner. He's got good ball skills. He is good at routes breaking back to the line of scrimmage. So you give him little hooks, come back. I mean, he's going to be your chain moving guy. He's not going to be Jamar Chase, where I talked about that. He's not even going to be Justin Jefferson. But this guy drips Amon-Ra St. Brown for me.
He does. Yeah.
I was watching him, and I just looked at him. I'm like, oh my gosh, like his route tree, he's even blocking. He's willing to engage defensive backs when he's blocking. This guy has got Amon-Ra St. Brown written all over him, and you and I both love that dude. We loved him coming out.
We love him even more. I love him a little more than you.
We love him even more in the NFL. He is very, very quick. The combine drills he did all that change of direction stuff. He dominated it, and he ran like a 4.5-ish 40 at his pro day. It's fine. Not real explosive off the line, but guess what? I don't know how much that matters.
Doesn't need to be in the slot.
Right. This guy, I think, is going to be a very, very good, not great, not all pro, very good wide receiver for a while.
Can we, for the record, remind folks that a certain person on this very podcast scoffed at me last season when I put Amon-Ra in my top 5 receivers? I was scoffed at thoroughly.
It was me. I was scoffing.
It was you. You are a scofflaw.
As much as I loved him, I did not anticipate him. I thought he would be a better real football player than fantasy.
Okay, fair enough. So we were talking before the show that about a touchdown JSN had against Nebraska, where it was like Lynn Swann stuff. His entire body wasn't just out of bounds, but going farther out of bounds. And he somehow took his right foot and I mean, it was like Batman stuff, like jetted it diagonally back into the field of play and scored. I mean, they didn't call it. They saw it on replay. It was sickening. I think I'd said to you beforehand, him and another guy we'll talk about, Flowers, the way they control their bodies in the air. A lot of these guys are great when they're on the ground or just running some routes. These guys can move in midair as though they're on the ground. It's a little freaky. He's got to be a monster. But a quick stat, I know we're doing a lot of time. We might even have to do O-line, throw them in next week. We'll see. How's that sound?
Yes, we're going to have to, for sure.
Because we can't just skip over wide receivers here.
You're right.
Last year, I don't know if you've seen this stat, our boys Olave and Wilson became the first collegiate duo in NFL history to both go for 1,000 yards in their rookie year. First ever. But if you really look back at the last 3 years at Ohio State, those two boys are the third and fourth best receivers on the team. Because JSN and Marvin Harrison Jr. are both better than them.
Wait, right. You're right.
How crazy is that? Those dudes.
Listen, 2021, they played in a bowl game against Utah. Jackson Smith and Jigba had 15 catches for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. No, that's not a typo. I didn't say anything. 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure that's a all bowl record. It doesn't matter what bowl you ever played in. It could be the Kevin Reynolds, Bobby Wall Bowl in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but that's the record.
Well, so that's just crazy. Is it? So the two best receivers on that team aren't the two guys who just broke an NFL, who didn't break one, set an NFL record. Right. It's just nuts. And look at even Harrison. You could make the case Georgia wouldn't have won the national championship if he didn't go out with a concussion so early in that
Yeah.
in the semifinal game, because he was dominating that game until he got his head about knocked off. And how he caught that ball still to me is
I know.
I,
I know.
you're completely
I know.
unconscious in midair. You
It
still
was like
somehow catch
it
it.
was like a lave.
Yes,
It's an
exactly.
Ohio
Lava did
State
the
thing.
same thing for the Saints.
They
Catch a ball
they're so
unconscious
good.
before you hit the ground, but still hold on.
That's what they do. They teach it in practice.
They
They
must.
just knock
Now
you
they just
unconscious in
teach them
the
how to
air and see if you can
get
hold on
stick
to
them
it.
in all the right places. So he's actually my number 2 guy. You mentioned Quentin Johnson, the size 6'3", 208,
He's your guy, right?
4'4". He
Number one for
catches.
you?
Yeah, he is. Just because of the size, he's going to play everywhere. You said you saw a few plays here you didn't like, but man, the dude's a human highlight reel. Makes tough catches. He's open, it seems, all the time. He breaks tackles like anybody I've seen here, even better than some of the small guys. You know, the way he can move, the way he can just turn on a dime. He's a guy of all these guys, he's the one that I can't imagine not having a very successful NFL career.
You love him because he's basically George Pickens.
No, I'm fond of George Pickens.
I know. I know. I
Steelers
told you
that George Pickens.
I was not going to give you that before the show. You were expressing your love for Quentin Johnson. And I said, hey, I know why you love him. I'll tell you in a minute.
I
In a
don't
few
know that
minutes.
he's the 100% pure athlete Pickens is, but he's
He doesn't have the
very,
hands.
very close.
He doesn't have the now. As far as athletics go, Quentin Johnson, I think, is the winner. 6'4", 215-ish. He had over a 40-inch vertical and over an 11-foot broad jump. This dude is insane.
He is.
Almost 19 yards per reception. He comes off the ball really hard, which I love. I watched his 2021 film versus his 2022 film. His route tree really opened up, which I like because that shows me that he's learning. Okay, it's still not where it needs to be, but he does run really hard off the line, and it's tough to see. I don't know when he's running a route or when he's going to block, which is great because there's a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit that I know exactly when he's going to block and when he's going to run a route. So, you don't want to do that. He's not much of a blocker. He can learn that. He ran outside and in the slot. Quentin Johnson did a little bit. Mostly his slot routes, I think, were last year. You had mentioned Jackson Smith-Njigba with the toes and Zay Flowers body control. Johnson doesn't really have that. He lands out of bounds too much on some catches he makes, or he doesn't make the catches at all. He's really got to work on his hands. He only has 6 receiving touchdowns this past year. Not sure what that's about. Not sure why on a team that played in the national championship, you're leading receiver that had more than 6 touchdowns. I got some questions here. The size I love, the athleticism I love, the production, that kind of thing. I wonder a little bit. So that's why he's my 3. I got Zay Flowers. We talked about Zay's my number 2. Quentin's my number 3 simply because of those reasons.
Okay, Zay's my 3. So talk about Zay.
Dude, I love him, and I think I have a good comp for you. He's small. He's only 5'9", but he's a little stout. He's over 180. Crushed the combine, very athletic, 4'4", 240. He's fine. He's probably the best separator in the draft. So you watch him run his routes, he creates more space between him and the defender than probably anybody else. And this dude plays mean. He's angry all of the time.
Plays like Tyreek Hill.
He looks for contact with wide receivers, whether it might not even be with the ball in his hands, blocking, whatever. He's very explosive off the line. He plays all over the field. He's outside. He's in a slot. His routes were great. His effort is great. He played on a Boston College team who literally had no one. They had no running backs. They had no other wide receivers. And their quarterback wasn't even very good. Every team they faced knew the only player they have is Zay Flowers, and he still had 78 catches for over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. Here's my comp. You ready? I've heard Elijah Moore, who we already love. But
we do, but he still needs to do something in the league other than
how
one
about
game.
Steve Smith?
I take
my
that.
comp for him. I think is Steve
he's
Smith.
Faster. I think he's faster.
Right,
than Steve Smith.
Right. He's a faster Steve Smith, which you have to love.
When I watch him play, they're like I know he doesn't have the cheetah speed. When I watched him play, I thought it looked a lot like watching Tyreek Hill, this little crazy Tasmanian devil with these big freaking arms. One guy he'll run around, one guy he'll run past, the next guy he'll knock over. The one thing I love about Tyreek isn't just the speed and his cut. He doesn't really avoid contact. The dude, he'll lay his shoulder into some people now and again, not always, but but you're right. Because he's not as fast as him, and you can't really compare anybody to Tyreek Hill. He's like the perfect combination of everything. My only issue is I'm so tired. So very, very tired. Year after year. They keep saying it doesn't matter that he's little. He'll be fine on the Ravens. Every freaking mock draft on earth, 9 out of 10, 19 out of 20 has Flowers going to the Ravens. So we can get another tiny little receiver that doesn't amount to anything. Maybe things will be different if LJax is going and we can get a real quarterback. Maybe things will be different with the new offensive coordinator. But please get me somebody. I don't need 6'6". I don't need Randy Moss 6'5" running down the field. Can't you just at least give me somebody that's like 6'1"? It's anything. That somebody that's at least taller than me. I can't do it anymore, man. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Would I love to have this guy on the team? 100%. But please draft me somebody taller. I want can't Anquan Bolden just come out of retirement and come back? He's got to be still better than the crap we're putting out every year.
T.O., baby. T.O.
We talked about this. How would T.O. not be an upgrade on the trash that's in Baltimore now? A bunch of guys that are 5'8" can run like a cheetah, but play 3 games a year and can't catch.
Well, here's the deal. There are many of these draft pundits out there, Daniel Jeremiah included, who I absolutely love, but they have Jordan Addison as their number 1 receiver. This guy
God.
is.
I don't even want him in the first round.
Dude,
he's like 8 for me.
I don't. It's got to be the end of the first round. I certainly don't want him over Zay Flowers.
No way.
5'11", 175 maybe, but I bet he's actually smaller than that.
And horrible measurables. I'm telling you, I told you a month ago, this guy, I don't like him at all. You told me I was crazy.
His production was awesome. He was the Biletnikoff winner 2 years ago in Pitt with Kenny Pickett. I mean, in the last 2 seasons, he's caught 159 passes for almost 2,500 yards and 25 scores. Yeah. He's very crafty as a route runner. He's a willing blocker. He lined up all over the place, but again, he's very small. When he went with Pitt, when he was better. Now, granted, he played with Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winners last year in USC because he transferred. He ran a lot more routes from the slot. I thought he looked better in 2021's tape than he did this past year. He did, I'll give him credit, 3.2% drop rate. He doesn't drop anything, but he has to be my wide receiver 3, or I need to be a team like Dallas, where I have CeeDee Lamb as my wide receiver 1, Brandon Cooks is my wide receiver 2, and he is only my slot receiver. I can't have Addison on the outside.
At that weight, he's almost relegated.
Yes.
You can be short and play outside, but if you're that tiny, it's tough. And we say tiny because the dude's a muscular dude. It's just by these standards.
Like Zay Flowers, be angry.
Very little. Oh, yeah, Zay Flowers is 2 inches shorter and 10 pounds heavier.
Right. Oh, it's a 10
can take
pounds.
A hit.
He's sturdy. He's built.
Very good. Stout, as you called him earlier.
Yes.
So, yeah, Addison, I can't put him ahead of like 8. I got like 7 guys ahead of him. I can't say he's not going to have a decent career because he might, but I'm not taking him in the first round. That just seems baffling to me. But you were right. You said it like 2 weeks ago in here when I was saying how much I don't want him. I don't trust the dude that early. You're like, but it's going to happen anyway. Well, you're right. It is. Just like Will Levis is going to go in the top 5 to 7 picks. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but somebody's going to do it because of the risk reward.
Another guy we got is Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. 6 foot, 175. Dude, listen, I am watching him on film, and I wrote freakishly fast, one of the fastest dude I've ever seen on tape. And I wrote that he absolutely smoked Alabama, which he did.
Oh yeah,
67 catches, just shy of 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, and he can run other routes besides 9 routes. He's in pretty good hands. One thing that they did in Tennessee, which was smart, they lined him up in the stack position. So he lined up behind another receiver so that no one was in his face. He could do his thing. The dude only ran a 4.40, which was very shocking to me. I had this guy as a low 4.3, maybe high 4.2 guy. I can't believe he only ran a 4.40. He
yeah.
looks incredible on the field.
But he's still one of the fastest guys in here. And
Yes.
let's put something else into focus here, especially that Alabama game, because Hooker had 5 TDs that game. He did all this with another guy on the field that's in, I guess, I'd imagine both of our top 10 receivers. So he put up these numbers with another guy who's in our top 10. This isn't a dude that was like he was their only weapon. He put up these kind of numbers with a guy almost equal to him on the field with him at the same time.
Let me ask you real quick. How do you feel about Josh Downs? Because I know he's a favorite among some of these draft analysts
I
out
watched
there.
him a little, but he looked so tiny that my
Dude,
thought was this guy's going to be an awesome punt returner.
I do not see it. I don't see it. I have no idea what anyone likes.
He's
I really
quick.
don't.
He can really cut on a dime. He really can, but he's too little.
Right.
The problem is when you can turn on a dime, but you're that small, somebody can be your safety there and they just put their arm out. It's going to be enough to maybe knock you off balance and knock you over. If you can turn on a dime and you're 200, you go straight through that. But these smaller guys, they can't. They do the turn and they still get tackled. They just get an extra yard, so have an extra 15.
Can he do anything that JSN can do?
No.
Can you do anything that he can't do? No. Can
He
he do
can do it.
anything
He
that
just
Zay
can't do it as
Flowers can?
well.
Right.
And
Right.
he's a
Can
lot
he do it?
shorter.
Same with Jordan Addison. He just these guys are just. I watch this film and I think, is he doing anything that these other guys can't
And
do?
just
No.
not
Right.
touchdowns,
Right.
Nathaniel Dell. They're going to be great punt returners.
I got a late guy for you. 5th, 6th round, probably, hopefully.
Okay.
My, where I got my master's degree, WVU, baby. Bryce Ford Wheaton. He's 6'4", he's 221, one of the bigger receivers in the draft. He is only the 3rd player to be as tall as he is with the speed and explosion that he has. The only 2 other players to do it in the combine, DK Metcalf and Tariq Woolen. At 6'4", 221, he ran a 4.38 with a 41-inch vertical. He is more than a 9-route guy, not much more. He doesn't have a whole lot in that bag of tricks, but he's not afraid to get after it when he's blocking. He's just got to learn to catch the ball, which is interesting to say about a wide receiver. But if someone can get this guy on a hands machine and get him hours and hours and hours on that, he could maybe end up being something. But I like him as a late round flyer.
Yeah, since you texted me his name, I did look him up, read about him, saw his highlight. He looked good. But you're right. This is a guy, he's projected to go to about pick 196. He's one of those guys that he might end up, that might be what he is. But he's also, like I said, he might not be a guy who gives you 3rd round talent. Is this a guy I think is going to be a Pro Bowler? I don't. But he's a guy that I think could put up 900 yards and 8 touchdowns 6 years in a row.
He's certainly going to be he could be a nice fade to the corner of the end zone.
Absolutely. Guy. He's huge. He's big. So I have 2 that I want to throw out there. Cedric Tillman, who I pray the Ravens take at the end of the 2nd round, early 3rd round somewhere. They won't because he's over 5'10". So there's no chance that his 6'3", 213-pound body's going to get there. The dude watching film makes more tough catches than anybody else I watched. He goes up, you throw him the ball, he catches it. He's Anquan Bolden. You throw the ball, it's getting caught. Except much faster than Bolden. But the guy that I really want, okay, and I know he's a small guy, but 5'11", 5'11", 183, so a little bit bigger than some of these other small guys, is Marvin Mims. He looks like a freaking shot out of a cannon, mixed with a pinball, mixed with freaking Tasmanian devil out on the field. That catch he had against Texas Tech, where he goes up and somehow catches between two of them, sickening. That's who I want. I want him so bad. Not because I want him early. He's projected to go around pick 82, 83. But man, to get him in the third round, now we're buying it. Let's add some speed, but with a little bit more height, and then also get me somebody tall. And we got an offense starting. You said before the show you didn't really look at Mims. Go back and look.
Got it.
He
Will
looks
do.
great, dude. I'm telling you, I watched. I'm like, this looks different.
I looked at a little bit of Mims, and I'll definitely go back and I'll have my report next show.
Yeah, he does all the things those smaller guys did, except he's bigger and can run through that arm tackle, can go up in between a safety and a corner and actually catch the ball instead of standing down the ground watching them jump up to get it. I don't know. I just really like. That's somebody I'd love to have.
All right, sir. Let's get out of here. We'll do O lineman next week, and along with what, running backs and tight ends. How's that sound?
Tight ends, your favorite.
Of course. Thank you all for listening. Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. Check us out on Facebook. You know what? I've been doing a little Twitter stuff, man. I've been on the Twitter machine just a little bit. I thought you told me
you were waiting after the draft to get back onto there.
I know. I got drawn back in. I thought, well, let me just check it out, and sure enough, I got hooked just a little bit. Also Spotify, and we're gonna look into some Apple Podcasts maybe. So Kevin's gonna check that out for us and see if that's an avenue we could take. But thank you all for listening. Hope you liked our breakdown on the quarterbacks and wide receivers. We'll be back for more next week. Kevin, thank you, sir.
Anthony Richardson, baby.
Not a chance. See you in a week.